The deputy wouldn't look at me. That's how I knew it was real. He stood on my porch, the one I'd rebuilt 3 summers ago when the wood started rotting, holding a clipboard like it was a shield. Behind him, a locksmith I didn't recognize was already measuring the front door. "Sir, I need you to step back inside and gather your immediate personal items. You have 20 minutes. I didn't move. "There's been a mistake." "No mistake. I have the order right here." He tilted the clipboard toward me, not quite close enough to read. Professional distance. He'd done this before. The locksmith's drill whined to life. The sound cut through the October morning like a dentist's tool through bone. "That's not necessary," I said. "I'm not refusing to leave. I just need to understand." 20 minutes, sir." My son's car was already in the driveway. A Lexus, 2 years old. Lease, probably. He sat in the driver's seat with the window up, looking at his phone. His wife stood by the mailbox with a man in a suit I'd never seen before. All 3 of them had known this was happening, had planned it, had probably rehearsed their positions like a stage play. I went inside. 20 minutes to pack a life. I grabbed the duffel bag from the hall closet, the one I used for weekend fishing trips I hadn't taken in 5 years, and moved through the house like I was robbing it. Clothes from the bedroom, toiletries from the bathroom, my work laptop from the dining room table where I'd left it charging. In the kitchen, I opened the drawer where we used to keep important papers. Empty. The file cabinet in the den, the one with my name on the tabs, empty. Even the shoebox on the top shelf of my closet, where I'd kept old tax returns and the deed to the house, was gone. Not missing. Removed. 15 minutes left. I walked back to the front door. Through the window, I could see my son had gotten out of the car. He stood next to his wife now, both of them watching the house like they were waiting for something to catch fire. The suit was talking, gesturing with his hands, legal papers in a leather folder. The locksmith tested the new keys, then handed a set to the deputy. I opened the door. "Time's up," the deputy said. "The mailbox," I said. "My name's on the mailbox." The deputy glanced over his shoulder. The mailbox. Black metal, numbers in brass, James Turner in stick-on letters I'd applied myself, was already different. The letters were gone. Just the numbers remained. "That's not part of my order, sir." "When did they—" "Sir, you need to leave the property now." My son wouldn't look at me either. His wife did, though. She smiled. Not cruel, exactly. More like satisfied. Like she'd just finished a difficult puzzle. I walked down the porch steps with my duffel bag and my laptop case. The deputy followed me to the sidewalk, then stopped. Legal boundary. I kept walking to my truck, 15-year-old Ford, paid off, parked on the street because the driveway was apparently no longer mine. I threw the bags in the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel. The engine started on the second try. Through the windshield, I watched the suit hand my son a folder. My son signed something. His wife leaned over to see, then nodded. The suit shook their hands. Professional, efficient, just business. I drove 3 blocks before I realized I didn't know where I was going. And the restway inn sat on the edge of town where the highway split toward the interstate. 2 stories, exterior doors, parking spots marked with faded yellow paint. $49 a night if you paid cash. The clerk didn't ask questions. Room 117, ground floor, corner unit, window facing the access road. I dropped my bags on the bed and sat in the plastic chair by the heating unit. The room smelled like cigarettes and industrial cleaner. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter-in-law. "Emily, storage unit info, locker 34, Pine Street self-storage, code 4782. Your items are there." No greeting, no signature, just coordinates. I typed back, "What items?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I opened my laptop. The Wi-Fi password was taped to the bottom of the TV remote. I logged into my bank account. Checking. 847 savings, 000. The savings account, the one I'd had for 23 years, the one that had held $34,000 last time I checked, was closed. Closed, not emptied. Closed 2 weeks ago according to the transaction history. I called the bank, got a menu, pressed numbers until I reached a human. This is James Turner. Account number? 1 moment, please. Typing sounds. A pause. Mr. Turner, I'm showing that account was closed on September 28th. You'll need to speak with a branch manager about... I didn't close it. Sir, I'm showing proper authorization and I didn't close it. I didn't authorize anything. Someone stole... Sir, if you believe there's been fraud, you'll need to file a report with the police, and then... I hung up. September 28th. That was a Thursday. I'd been at work. My son had called that afternoon to ask about Mom's old jewelry, the stuff she'd left when she died 4 years ago. Just curious, he'd said. Sentimental value. I'd told him it was in the safe deposit box at the bank. He'd thanked me and hung up. I opened my email. Nothing from the bank, no notifications, no alerts. I searched for power of attorney, found it in my spam folder. An email from August 16th, 2 months ago. Subject line, Family Financial Planning Documents. Please review and sign. I'd never opened it. The preview text showed, Dear Dad, attached are the documents we discussed regarding streamlining your finances and... We'd never discussed it. I clicked the email. 4 attachments. Durable power of attorney, healthcare proxy, beneficiary designation forms, and a document labeled Voluntary Property Transfer Agreement. All of them signed, not by me, by someone. The signatures looked close enough. Same first letter, same general shape. Digital, probably. Scanned from something I'd actually signed. A birthday card, a work form, something. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. You should check your credit. Just in case. I stared at that message for a long time. Pine Street Self-Storage was a 1/4 mile from the highway, behind a Dollar General and a tire shop. Chain-link fence, keypad entry, security cameras on poles that probably didn't work. I punched in the code. The gate rolled open. Locker 34 was in the back row. 10 by 10, combination lock. The code from Emily's text worked. Inside, boxes. 30, maybe 40 of them, labeled in Emily's handwriting. Kitchen, bedroom, garage, office. Everything organized, categorized, packed with the kind of efficiency that takes planning. I opened the box labeled personal. Photo albums, my high school yearbooks. A trophy from a company softball league I'd forgotten existed. My father's watch, the one he'd given me before he died. Mom's wedding ring. I opened office, file folders, but only the old ones. Tax returns from 10 years ago. Mortgage statements from before the refinance. Nothing current, nothing that mattered. The box labeled tools was empty, except for a note on printer paper, donated to Habitat. My toolbox, my table saw, the router I'd bought 3 years ago and barely used, donated, without asking. I sat on the concrete floor of the storage unit and opened my phone. The family group chat, me, my son, Emily, my daughter out in Colorado, had 17 new messages. I'd been muted, not removed. A distinction I was starting to understand. The messages went back 3 weeks. Emily. Locksmith confirmed for Octi 12, 9 a.m. My son. Did you tell him? Emily. No. Better if the deputy does it. More official. My son. Makes sense. My daughter. Do we really have to do it this way? Emily. We talked about this. It's the only way to protect everyone. My daughter. I know. It just feels... Emily. It feels necessary. Trust me. I scrolled further back. August, July, June. Months of planning. References to the property, the transition, his stubbornness. Conversations about me like I was a problem to be solved, not a person. One message from my son in July. He won't understand. He never does. But once it's done, he'll see it was for the best. I closed the chat. The storage unit smelled like cardboard and dust. Outside, traffic hummed on the highway. Somewhere in this city, my city, the place I'd lived for 30 years, my son and his wife were sitting in my house, probably eating dinner at my table. I pulled out my phone and opened the browser. Searched for reverse power of attorney. Found a law firm's website. Clicked the contact form, started typing, then stopped. They'd planned this. For months, they had lawyers, they had documents, they had the house, the money, the mailbox. They thought the story was over. I closed the browser and stood up. Locked the storage unit. Walked back to my truck. The story wasn't over. It was only the opening move. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The Restway Inn had a coffee maker in the office that the clerk let me use if I bought a cup from the gas station next door. 24 ounces of burnt coffee for $1.50. I drank it in my truck while I made a list. Not a revenge list, a facts list. Fact 1. My son, Daniel, was 32 years old, married for 6 years, worked in pharmaceutical sales for a company I couldn't name off the top of my head, made decent money, probably $60,000 or $70,000 a year. He drove a leased Lexus. They rented a townhouse in the newer development near the mall. Fact 2. Emily was 30, worked part-time at a real estate office, mostly staging homes for showings. She came from money. Her father owned a chain of car washes. Her mother did something with interior design. Fact 3. The man in the suit at the house. I didn't know who he was. Lawyer, probably, or the trustee Emily had mentioned in the group chat messages, someone who knew how to move paper around and make things legal. Fact 4. I worked at Morrison Distribution, a regional logistics company that handled warehousing and freight coordination for retail chains. I'd been there 14 years, facilities manager. I knew how things moved, how systems worked, how to read schedules and access logs and shipping manifests. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Fact 5. They needed something from me. Otherwise, why the storage unit? Why pack my things instead of just throwing them away? Why mute me in the group chat instead of removing me completely? I finished the coffee and started the truck. I had a shift at Morrison in 2 hours. The warehouse sat on the industrial side of town, 20 acres of concrete and corrugated steel. 3 buildings connected by covered loading docks, surrounded by a fence that was more decorative than secure. I'd worked here long enough to know every entrance, every camera blind spot, every supervisor's schedule. I badged in through the employee entrance at 2:47 p.m. The security guard, Ramon, 60-something, retired cop, nodded at me from his booth. "Heard you were out sick yesterday," he said. "Family stuff." "Everything okay?" "Getting there." I walked through the main floor toward my office, a glass-walled cube in the corner with a view of the loading docks. My desk was exactly as I'd left it. Computer, 3 monitors, files stacked in plastic trays, a coffee mug from a company picnic 5 years ago. I logged in, checked my email, 37 new messages, mostly automated reports and scheduling updates. Nothing unusual. I opened the personnel database, searched for Daniel Turner. No results. I tried Emily Turner, Emily Harrison, Emily Morrison. Nothing. I checked the vendor database, searched for their townhouse address. Nothing. Then I searched for properties I knew they'd been involved with. Emily's real estate staging jobs. Found 3 addresses in the last 6 months. Cross-referenced them with our delivery logs. One match. A rental property we'd delivered furniture to in August. Address, 4400 Parkside Drive. According to the delivery notes, it was a full home staging, living room, bedroom, kitchen. Total value, $8,200. Paid by check from Harrison Properties, LLC, Emily's father's company. I pulled up the photos from the staging job. Standard procedure. We documented every delivery for insurance purposes. The living room showed leather furniture, abstract art, a glass coffee table. The bedroom had a king-size bed with white linens, matching nightstands, a dresser that looked expensive. The kitchen photo showed granite countertops, stainless appliances, a breakfast nook with a view of a backyard. And on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet, a paper that hadn't been there when we started the delivery. I zoomed in. A mortgage application, pre-approval letter, name, Daniel Turner, property, 4400 Parkside Drive, amount, $425,000. I sat back in my chair. They were buying a house, not renting anymore. Buying. A house twice the size of the townhouse they lived in now, in a neighborhood where the cheapest homes started at $400,000. With what money? I minimized the photos and opened a new browser window, searched for property records, found the county assessor's website, entered the address, 4400 Parkside Drive, status, pending sale. Current owner, Harrison Properties LLC, purchase price, $425,000. Buyer, Daniel Turner. Closing date, October 30th, 2 weeks from now. I pulled up my own property records. My house, the house I'd lived in for 18 years, the house I'd paid off 3 years ago, showed a different story. Owner, Turner Family Trust. Transfer date, September 1st. I clicked through to the trust documents. Trustee, Bradford Hayes, attorney at law. Beneficiaries, Daniel Turner, Emily Turner. No mention of me. I took a screenshot. Saved it to a flash drive. Logged out of the computer. Ramon was still in his booth when I left. Short day? He asked. Forgot something at home. You feeling okay? You look... I'm fine. I wasn't fine, but I was starting to understand. The county courthouse was downtown, a 3-story brick building with a parking lot that cost $8 for the first hour. I fed quarters into the meter and walked inside. The clerk's office was on the second floor. A woman in her 50s sat behind a desk with a computer and a stack of binders. Her nameplate read, Margaret. I need to pull property records, I said. Property address? I gave her my old address. She typed it in, clicked a few times, then turned the monitor toward me. Everything should be on the screen. You can print if you need copies. 50 cents a page. The records went back 10 years. I scrolled to September 1st. The transfer document was 8 pages long. Most of it was legal boilerplate, whereas this and pursuant that. But the summary was clear. James Turner, owner of record, transfers full ownership and title to Turner Family Trust, effective September 1st, 2025. Signed by me. Notarized by a woman named Patricia Owens. I'd never met Patricia Owens. Can I see the original signature page? I asked. Margaret frowned. Original should be with the filer. We only keep digital copies. Who filed it? She clicked again. Bradford Hayes Law Office. You'd have to contact them directly. Do you verify signatures? We verify notarization. If the notary says it's legitimate, we accept it. What if it's not legitimate? Then you'd need to challenge it in court. Bring evidence. Get a judge to review. How long does that take? Depends. 6 months if you're lucky. A year, maybe more. I printed the document, $4 in quarters, folded it into my jacket pocket. One more thing, I said. Can you search by notary name? Patricia Owens? Margaret looked skeptical but typed it in anyway. A list appeared. 37 documents notarized by Patricia Owens in the last year. I scanned the names, saw 3 that made my chest tighten. Daniel Turner, Emily Turner, Bradford Hayes. Can I print this list? Public record. Knock yourself out. I printed it, another $2. Outside, the October afternoon had turned cold. Wind cut through the parking lot, rattling the leaves in the planters by the entrance. I sat in my truck and read through the list. Patricia Owens had notarized the power of attorney in August, the property transfer in September, and 3 weeks ago she'd notarized something called a certification of incapacity. I didn't know what that was, but I could guess. I started the truck and drove toward Bradford Hayes's law office. It was in a strip mall near the county line, between a tax preparation service and a dental clinic. The sign in the window said, "Walk-ins welcome." I walked in. The receptionist looked up from her computer. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, I need to speak with Mr. Hayes about a property transfer. He's with a client right now. If you want to leave your name, I'll wait." She looked like she wanted to argue, then thought better of it. "It might be a while." "That's fine." The waiting room had 6 chairs, a coffee table with outdated magazines, and a television playing a local news station with the sound off. I sat in the chair closest to the inner office door and listened. Voices inside. A man and a woman. The man's voice was calm, measured, professional. The woman's voice was upset, but trying not to be. Words I could make out. Didn't understand what I was signing. And he promised it was temporary. The door opened. A woman in her 60s walked out, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. She didn't look at me. The receptionist stood up and guided her toward the exit with practiced sympathy. Bradford Hayes appeared in the doorway. Mid-40s, gray suit, rimless glasses. He saw me, and his expression didn't change. "Can I help you?" "James Turner. I think you know who I am." His expression still didn't change. "I'm afraid I don't discuss client matters without—" "I'm not asking you to discuss anything. I'm asking why my name is on documents I never signed." Now his expression changed. Just slightly. A calculation happening behind his eyes. "Mr. Turner, if you have concerns about a legal document, I'd recommend you consult with your own attorney." "I don't have an attorney. I have a storage unit full of boxes and a bank account with $800. "I'm sorry to hear that, but did you know the signature was forged?" "Mr. Turner, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Did Patricia Owens know? He took a step back into his office. His hand moved toward his desk. Probably a phone. Probably calling security or the police. I stood up. "I'll leave, but I'm not going away." He closed the door. I heard the lock click. The receptionist stared at me. I walked past her, out into the parking lot, into my truck. I sat there for 10 minutes, watching the office. Bradford Hayes didn't come out. No police showed up. But I'd learned something. He wasn't surprised to see me. He was prepared. That meant he'd been expecting me, which meant he knew what he'd done, which meant it wasn't just legal maneuvering. It was deliberate. The Prestige Homes office closed at 6 p.m. I knew this because I'd watched Emily leave at 6:03 every night for the past week, locking the door behind her and setting the alarm. Tonight was different. Tonight I was parked in the lot behind the building, near the dumpsters where the security lights didn't quite reach. At 6:05, Emily's Audi pulled out of the front lot. I waited 5 minutes, then walked to the back door. Prestige Homes was in an old house, converted for commercial use. The back door led to what used to be a kitchen, now a storage room for staging props and lockboxes. I'd spent 2 hours that afternoon at a hardware store, learning how to pick basic locks. The tutorial videos on YouTube made it look easy. It wasn't. But after 20 minutes of fumbling in the dark with a tension wrench and a rake pick, I heard the click. Inside, the storage room smelled like cardboard and air freshener. I used my phone's flashlight to navigate between stacked chairs and rolled-up rugs. Found the door to the main office. Emily's desk was near the front window, the one with the view of the street. Her computer was locked, but her file cabinet wasn't. I opened the bottom drawer. Client files, alphabetical. I found Harrison Properties. Inside, contracts, staging agreements, payment records. I flipped through them quickly, taking photos of each page. Found the paperwork for 4400 Parkside Drive, staging agreement signed by Emily, payment authorized by Martin Harrison, and attached to the back, a private sale agreement between Harrison Properties LLC and Daniel Turner. Purchase price, $425,000, down payment, $280,000, loan amount, $145,000. The numbers matched exactly. The equity line on my house had provided the down payment. The remaining amount was a loan from First Regional Bank, approved by Martin Cross. But there was something else, a second document, stapled to the first, an amendment to the purchase agreement. New closing date, October 30th. Contingency, property transfer of 847 Hillcrest Avenue must be finalized by October 28th. 847 Hillcrest Avenue. My old address. They couldn't close on the new house until they finalized the transfer of the old one, which meant if I could challenge the transfer in the next 3 days, I could stop everything. I took photos of every page, put the file back, closed the drawer. Then I heard a car door slam outside. I moved to the window. Emily's Audi was back in the parking lot. She was walking toward the front door, carrying a folder she must have forgotten. I had maybe 15 seconds before she unlocked the front door and saw me standing in her office. I ran back through the storage room, out the back door. Pulled it closed behind me as quietly as I could, heard the front door opening. I walked quickly to my truck, trying not to run, got in, started the engine, drove out of the parking lot as Emily's silhouette appeared in the office window. I watched the rearview mirror. No one followed me. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m., organizing the photos I'd taken, built a timeline, cross-referenced dates with the documents I already had. The pattern was clear. August 16th, power of attorney email sent. September 1st, property transfer filed. September 15th, equity line of credit opened on my house. September 19th, Daniel stole my personnel files. September 28th, equity line drawn in full. My savings account closed. October 12th, I was evicted. October 30th, Daniel's new house closing, contingent on finalizing my house transfer by October 28th, 2 days from now. If the transfer wasn't finalized by then, the purchase agreement would fall apart. Daniel wouldn't get his house. The money they'd already spent on staging, on deposits, on lawyers, would be lost. I had 2 days to stop it. But how? I couldn't challenge the transfer through the courts. Detective Vaughn had said it would take months. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I couldn't get Bradford Hayes or Patricia Owens to admit they'd forged documents. I pulled up the county clerk's website, found the requirements for filing a property transfer objection. It required a formal written statement, a filing fee of $150, and at least 3 business days for processing. 3 business days. I didn't have 3 business days, unless I could create a reason for the clerk's office to delay processing. I picked up my phone and called Margaret. It went to voicemail. I tried again at 8 a.m. She answered on the 3rd ring. County Clerk's Office. Margaret, it's James Turner. I need to file an objection to a property transfer. The one from September 1st? Yes. You know that's going to take at least 3 days to process, right? I know, but I need to file it today. Can you walk me through the process? She sighed. Come down to the office. Bring your ID, proof of ownership, and a written statement explaining why the transfer should be voided. Filing fee is $150. I'll be there in an hour. The county clerk's office was busier than usual. A line of people waited at the counter, holding folders and looking impatient. I waited 20 minutes before Margaret called me forward. You have everything? She asked. I handed her the folder. Inside, a copy of my driver's license, the original deed to my house from 18 years ago, and a 3-page written statement detailing the forged signatures, the fake medical records, and the fraudulent property transfer. Margaret read through it quickly. This is going to be contested. You know that, right? I know. And even if we process this today, it won't void the transfer. It just flags it for review. How long does the review take? Could be weeks. Could be months. What if there's new evidence? Video footage, financial records, proof of fraud? Margaret looked at me. You have that? I will by the end of the day. Then bring it in, and we'll add it to the file, but I'm telling you, this is a long shot. I don't need a guarantee. I just need a delay. She stamped the paperwork. Filed. Your case number is 2025 PR 8847. Keep that for your records. I paid the $150 filing fee, left with a receipt and a copy of the case number. Outside, I sat in my truck and called Detective Vaughn. I filed an objection to the property transfer, I said. Good, that'll help my investigation. I need you to do something else. I need you to request records from Bradford Hayes' office. Today. I can't just... You can if it's part of an active investigation. And it is, right? Yes, but... Then request the records. Make it official. Make it so he has to respond. She was quiet for a moment. What are you doing, Mr. Turner? That's not going to stop them. It'll just delay things. Delay is all I need. I hung up and drove to the Morrison warehouse. October 28th came and went. I spent the day in room 117, watching the local news and checking my phone every 10 minutes. No calls, no texts, no emergencies. At 5 p.m., I drove past Bradford Hayes' office. The lights were on. His car was in the parking lot. I kept driving. At 6 p.m., I drove past 4400 Parkside Drive. Emily's Audi was in the driveway. Daniel's Lexus was parked on the street. Through the front window, I could see them inside, talking. Emily was gesturing with her hands. Daniel was looking at his phone. They knew something was wrong. I kept driving. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Hayes' office. Don't bring anyone. I didn't reply. The next morning, I arrived at Bradford Hayes' office at 9:45, parked across the street where I could see the entrance. At 9:55, Daniel's Lexus pulled in. Emily got out of the passenger seat. They went inside. I waited until 10:05, then walked in. The receptionist looked nervous when she saw me. Mr. Turner, they're expecting you. Conference room. The conference room was at the back of the office. Bradford Hayes sat at the head of a long table. Daniel and Emily sat on one side. 3 empty chairs on the other side. Sit down, Mr. Turner, Hayes said. I sat. We have a problem, Hayes continued. The property transfer for 847 Hillcrest Avenue has been flagged by the county clerk's office. There's an objection filed under your name. That's right. This objection is delaying the finalization of the transfer, which is causing issues with the Parkside Drive closing. That's the idea. Emily leaned forward. You're sabotaging us. You're deliberately interfering with a legitimate real estate transaction. Legitimate? Yes, legitimate. Everything was done legally, with proper authorization. Authorization I never gave. Bradford Hayes folded his hands on the table. Mr. Turner, I understand you're upset, but this situation can be resolved. If you withdraw the objection, we can proceed with both transactions and everyone can move forward. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, this becomes expensive for everyone. Legal fees, court costs, delays that benefit no one, except me. How does this benefit you? You're living in a motel. You have no access to your property. You're estranged from your family. Prolonging this doesn't change any of that. It stops you from profiting off fraud. There's no fraud here, Mr. Turner. Just a family disagreement about estate management. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I'd taken, slid the phone across the table. That's the file from Emily's office, the purchase agreement for Parkside Drive. Note the contingency clause. The transfer of my house had to be finalized by October 28th. It wasn't. Hayes picked up the phone, studied the photos. His expression didn't change. How did you get these? Does it matter? You broke into a private office. The door was unlocked. That's still trespassing. So call the police. Hayes set the phone down. Mr. Turner, you're making this very difficult. Good. Daniel stood up. This is pointless. He's not going to cooperate. Emily grabbed his arm. Wait. She turned to me. What do you want? Excuse me? You obviously want something, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You'd just let the whole thing collapse and feel good about it. But you showed up, which means you're willing to negotiate. I looked at her. She was right. I could have stayed away, let the closing fall apart, let them scramble and fail, but I was here because I wanted more than that. I want the house back, I said. That's not possible. Make it possible. Bradford Hayes shook his head. The property transfer is legally binding. Even if you withdraw your objection, the transfer stands. Then reverse it. I can't do that without Daniel's consent. He's the trustee. Daniel? My son looked at me. His expression was hard. You're not getting the house back. Why not? Because you can't take care of it. You couldn't take care of yourself. That's why we had to step in. I was fine. You weren't fine. You were depressed, distracted, making bad decisions. Someone had to protect you from yourself. By stealing everything I had? By making sure you'd be taken care of? By making sure the family assets stayed in the family? Your family, not mine. Daniel's jaw tightened. We're your family. We're all you have. Not anymore. Emily stood up. This is getting us nowhere. If you won't negotiate, we'll let the courts decide. The courts will take months. You'll miss your closing. You'll lose your deposit. You'll have to explain to Emily's father why his investment fell through. We'll get an extension. Not if Morrison withholds payment on your staging invoice. Not if First Regional starts asking questions about the collateral on your loan. Not if Detective Vaughn subpoenas Bradford's records. Bradford Hayes's expression finally changed. Not much, just a flicker of concern. You've been busy, he said. I learned from the best. Hayes stood up. Mr. Turner, I'm going to give you some advice. Walk away. Withdraw your objection, drop your complaints, and walk away. Because if you keep pushing, you're going to find yourself in a legal battle you can't afford and can't win. Maybe, but you'll be right there with me. And unlike me, you have something to lose. I stood up and walked out. That afternoon, Detective Vaughn called. Bradford Hayes's office is refusing to comply with my records request. They're claiming attorney-client privilege. Can they do that? For some documents, yes, but not for notarization records. Those are public. So what now? I'm getting a subpoena, but it'll take a few days. I don't have a few days. I know, but it's the best I can do. I hung up and drove to the storage unit. Inside, I pulled out the box labeled personal, found my father's watch, my mother's wedding ring, the photo albums I'd looked at weeks ago. I opened one of the albums, found pictures of Daniel as a kid, birthday parties, school plays, family vacations. He was smiling in every photo, happy. What had happened? I closed the album and put it back in the box, locked the storage unit, drove away. And that night, I got another text from the unknown number. Final offer. $50,000 cash. You walk away. No more objections. No more complaints. No more contact. $50,000. Enough to start over. Enough to rent a real apartment, buy a decent car, maybe even take some time off work to figure out what came next. But it wasn't about the money. It had never been about the money. I typed back, no, 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. October 30th, closing day. I drove to the title company's office at 1:30 p.m., parked across the street, waited. At 1:45, Daniel's Lexus pulled into the parking lot. Emily got out. They walked inside, carrying folders and looking tense. At 1:50, Bradford Hayes arrived. Then Martin Harrison, Emily's father, a tall man in an expensive suit driving a Mercedes. At 2:00, the closing was supposed to start. At 2:15, Bradford Hayes came outside. He was on his phone, talking fast, pacing in the parking lot. At 2:30, Emily came out. She was crying. Daniel followed her, trying to talk to her. She shook him off and got in the car. At 2:45, Martin Harrison came out. He was yelling at Bradford Hayes. I couldn't hear the words, but the body language was clear. He was angry. They couldn't close. The title company had refused to proceed with an outstanding invoice, a disputed property transfer, and questions about the loan collateral. I watched them argue for another 5 minutes. Then they got in their cars and drove away. I sat in my truck and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks: relief. The restway inn felt different that night. Not better, just different. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling and felt the weight of the last month settle over me. I'd stopped them. The closing had fallen through. They'd lost their house, their deposit, probably their relationship with Emily's father. But I hadn't won anything. I was still in a motel room, still estranged from my son, still without my house, my savings, my life. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mr. Turner, this is Patricia Owens." I sat up. "What do you want?" "I think we should talk. In person." "Why?" "Because I have information you need, and you have information I need. I'm not interested in... I know about the guardianship petition. I know about the medical records. I know what Bradford Hayes asked me to do." I was quiet. "Meet me," she said. "Tomorrow, noon, the diner on Route 9. Come alone." She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, trying to figure out if this was a trap. But if Patricia Owens was willing to talk, maybe I could get the proof I needed. Proof that would hold up in court. Proof that would actually reverse the transfer. I had nothing to lose by hearing her out. The diner on Route 9 was the kind of place that served breakfast all day and had a jukebox that hadn't worked in 20 years. I got there at 11:45. Patricia Owens was already in a booth near the back, drinking coffee. She looked older than her profile photo. Tired, nervous. I sat down across from her. "Mr. Turner, thank you for coming. What do you want?" "I want to tell you the truth about what Bradford asked me to do." "You mean the forgeries?" She flinched. "I didn't know they were forgeries. Not at first." "When did you find out?" "When you filed the objection, when Detective Vaughn started asking questions, when I realized Bradford had been lying to me." "About what?" "About everything. About you. About the power of attorney. About the guardianship petition." She pulled a folder out of her bag and slid it across the table. "I made copies of all the documents I notarized for Bradford in the last 3 years, including yours." I opened the folder. Inside, notarization records, signature logs, dates, and timestamps. Dozens of documents, all of them showing the same pattern. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I don't want to lose my license. Because I don't want to go to jail. Because Bradford told me everything was legitimate, and I believed him." "You should have verified the signatures." "I did. They looked legitimate. He showed me ID. He had the paperwork. He had authorization forms. I did everything I was supposed to do. Except question why the actual property owners were never present." She looked down at her coffee. "I know. I should have. But Bradford was persuasive, and I trusted him." "You were married to him." "I was. A long time ago. We stayed friends after the divorce. He sent me clients. I sent him referrals. It was mutually beneficial. Until it wasn't. Until you filed the objection. Until I realized what he'd been doing." I closed the folder. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to tell Detective Vaughn that I'm cooperating, that I'm providing evidence, that I didn't know." "Why would I do that?" "Because without my testimony, you can't prove Bradford forged anything. You can challenge the signatures all you want, but without me confirming that the notarization was based on false information, it's just your word against his." She was right. "What are you asking for in return?" "Immunity, or at least leniency." "I made a mistake, Mr. Turner. I'm trying to fix it." I picked up the folder. "I'll talk to Detective Vaughn, but I'm not making any promises. That's all I'm asking." I left the diner and drove straight to the police station. Detective Vaughn read through Patricia Owens's documents carefully, took notes, asked questions. "This is good," she said. "This is really good. If she's willing to testify, we can build a case against Bradford Hayes." "What about Daniel and Emily?" "Depends on what they knew and when. If they knew the documents were forged, they're accomplices. If they didn't, they're just beneficiaries of fraud, harder to prosecute." "They knew. Can you prove it?" I thought about the group chat messages, the planning, the coordination, the way Emily had smiled when my name was removed from the mailbox. "Maybe." "Then get me proof. Real proof. Something that shows intent." I left the station and drove to Morrison Distribution. Rick was in his office, looking stressed. "Turner, we've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Harrison Properties is threatening to sue us for breach of contract. They say we sabotaged their real estate deal by withholding payment." "What did you tell them?" "I told them we had a legitimate concern about missing inventory, but they're not buying it. They want documentation, dates, everything." "Give it to them." "What?" "Give them everything. The photos, the delivery records, the invoice. Let them sue. Because when they do, it becomes public record. And when it becomes public record, Detective Vaughn can use it in her investigation." Rick stared at me. "You're insane." "I'm thorough." That afternoon, I went back to the storage unit, pulled out the box labeled Office. Found something I'd missed before. A USB drive, taped to the bottom of the box, hidden under the file folders. I pulled it out, took it back to my truck, plugged it into my laptop. The drive had one folder. Inside, scanned documents, contracts, emails, financial records, everything Daniel and Emily had accumulated over the last 3 years. I opened the emails, found one dated August 10th, from Emily to Daniel. Subject: Dad. "We need to move faster. He's starting to ask questions about the refinance. I think he's going to figure it out. Can Bradford accelerate the transfer?" Daniel's response: "Already talked to him. Transfer will be filed by Sept. T1. We just need to keep Dad distracted until then." I kept reading. Found another email. September 3rd. Daniel to Martin Cross. Subject: Loan approval. Need confirmation on the equity line. $280K, approved and drawn by Sept. T30. Let me know if there are any issues. Martin Cross's response: approved. Funds will be available, Sept. 28. Make sure the collateral docs are clean. I took screenshots of everything, saved them to the cloud, saved them to 3 different flash drives. Then I drove back to the police station. Detective Vaughn looked at the emails on my laptop screen. "Where did you get these?" "They were in my storage unit, hidden in a box." "Why would they hide these in your storage unit?" "Maybe they didn't. Maybe someone put them there for me to find." "Who?" "I don't know. But someone wanted me to have proof." Vaughn made copies, added them to her case file. "This changes things," she said. "This shows conspiracy, intent, coordination. I can bring charges against all of them." "How long?" "Give me a week. I need to verify the emails, get warrants, coordinate with the DA." "What happens to the house?" "If the fraud is proven, the transfer will be voided. You'll get the property back, eventually." "Eventually?" "Could be months, could be a year. Depends on how hard they fight." "They'll fight." "I know." On that night, I got a call from Daniel. "We need to talk," he said. "I'm listening." "Not on the phone, in person, tomorrow, the house." "Your house or mine?" "You know which one." He hung up. I sat in room 117 and thought about whether this was a good idea. Probably not. But I was tired of hiding, tired of waiting. I'd go. But I wouldn't go alone.